Well, I was expecting one or two, but seven? Got to love the FA Cup. Hello and welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat, your show dedicated to the FAWNL. That's the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. My name is Chris Gadsby, here every Thursday at 6 p.m. and bringing you the very latest. And we're coming this week off the back of a superb first round proper of the Women's FA Cup. Was expecting one or two shocks within all of those ties, but to get seven sides beating higher tier opposition truly shows what the magic of the FA Cup is. We will get into all of those FA Cup results, the one league result as well from the past 7 days. But first we have got some news to go through, one of which is involving the FA Cup. But we're going to start in the Southern Premier Division and indeed finish in the Southern Premier Division with two bits of news. Firstly, for Oxford, they are delighted to announce the appointment of Sam Rose as their first team manager. They say after a thorough recruitment process, Sam joins the U's from Women's Super League team Aston Villa, where he worked as assistant manager last season, and will become the first ever full-time manager of Oxford United Women. Now, I was talking to Craig from Talking Woso about this, not sure entirely what Andy Cook was. If you dig out the article from when he is appointed, he was down as a full-time manager, so don't know, short-term memories, obviously. But Sam has a wealth of experience in youth football. He worked in the academy at Burton for 12 years. He's worked at Nottingham Forest in youth development as well as part of a Category 1 Premier League academy. So Sam, he took his first training session with the squad a week last Tuesday and was in charge for this game against Woodley United in the FA Cup first round, which we will, of course, get on to. Oxford United Women's General Manager Gemma Sims said, "We are over the moon to have Sam on board. His passion, energy for developing talent and the women's game really caught our attention. We're all very excited for this new era at Oxford United Women." So that's the news from Oxford, and the news that has come out today, I'm recording this on Wednesday this week, is that London Bees can confirm that Tom Buzzard has resigned as head coach with immediate effect. Assistant coach Vinny Ivanov and goalkeeping coach Ryan Court have also departed the club. We thank Tom, Vinny and Ryan for all their commitments, while at the club wish them all the best for the future. Danielle Denyer will take over as head coach with immediate effect on interim basis, with James Hall, David Sobers and Matt Archer joining the coaching team. So London Bees struggling in the Southern Premier Division, that's safe to say. They are currently bottom of the division with just 1 point from their opening 9 games, and not the start, of course, they would have wanted. They're already 5 points away from safety, and they were beaten in the FA Cup, as we will get on to later. So those are the two bits of news coming out of the Southern Premier Division. Other big piece of news that came out last Thursday, right after I'd recorded the show, thanks FA, is that the total prize fund for the Women's FA Cup has been doubled for this season. An additional investment of £3 million has been approved by the board, bringing the total prize fund for the competition to £6 million. New agreement means there will be a significant increase in prize money for clubs competing from the third round proper onwards for this season. They will now access a prize pot of £44,000 per match, which is a substantial uplift on the £12,500 pot from the same round last year. Increasing the prize pot for each match between the third round and the final. Final prize pot rises from £150,000 last year to £538,000 to, as the FA put it, ensure success in the competition is rewarded. So whereas last year in the final the winner got £100,000, the runner-up got £50,000. Now the winner gets £430,000. Now I have put my thoughts about this change into an article on womensfootballchat.wordpress.com. It's the latest article on there, and it highlights that the winner of the FA Cup now, presumably coming from the Super League, because they come from the Super League, they get £814,000 from entering in the fourth round to going all the way through and winning the FA Cup. Meanwhile, I'm trying to find the bit of there now. So Wigan Athletic of Tier 7 still in there, still in the competition. I've won £8,000 for winning almost as many games. Now, it's great that the prize pot is being doubled, and as I said, I'm going into this in far more detail in the article on womensfootballchat.wordpress.com, so go to that. I'll kind of do the broader points here. They have found £3 million of additional funding that has been approved by the board. Now, to me, to not have that available at the start of the season and then to only be able to bring this in midway through the competition tells me that a new sponsor has come on board that we as yet do not know about, because £3 million, you've not won a few pennies in the 2p slot machine at Skegness. This is a significant amount of money that has not just appeared out of thin air. And to me, that means there is a new sponsor we do not know about. So we will await further information on that if and when it comes. But what it does mean, of course, is that the Championship sides that come in round 3 and the Super League sides that come in round 4 are going to significantly benefit, and the clubs towards the bottom of the pyramid, down in towards Tier 7, there are 12 tiers, but into Tier 7, are left with exactly the same as they had last year, but all the costs are increasing. We have had 10 sides already that have had to fold this season, and we are only in mid-November. But as I said, for more of my thoughts, more of my information, go to www.womensfootballchat.wordpress.com. Right, let's get through then into results and stuff from the last 7 days. We're going to start with the league before we get into the FA Cup. Just one game to go through, and it is in Division 1 South East, where London Seaward had a very convincing 6-0 victory over AFC Sudbury, a hat-trick for Shamoy Campbell, 2 for Megan Burrows and 1 for Elena Karabot, coming off the substitutes bench. So 6-0 the victory in that one, meaning for the table not a huge amount. It just means London Seaward, with their 3 points, have gone up to 7th. They jump above Actonians after that victory over AFC Sudbury. So London Seaward now are 8 points clear of the bottom two. The bottom two, Haywards Heath Town and Cambridge City. AFC Sudbury are teetering over the brink. They're 3 points clear, but they've played 2 games more, and Haywards Heath Town have a better goal difference. And that covers all of the league fixtures. League results from the past 7 days. Didn't think it would take particularly long. But now we'll go into the big bulk, really, of this week's show, which is the first round proper of the Women's FA Cup. So let's have a look at those results. Now, what you'll see here, results down the middle and the tier down the left and right hand side. Let me just go through those 7 sides that knocked out higher tier opposition in the FA Cup first round. Durham Sestra, Hull City, Norwich City, Bristol Rovers, Dartford, Dulwich Hamlet and Ebbsfleet United. 7 sides going through into the second round after knocking out higher tier opposition. A point of note that the second round of the FA Cup is a week on Sunday, so next week we'll be looking at those in detail. We are guaranteed 2 sides from below the FAWNL in the third round of the FA Cup after a couple of Tier 5 sides drew against each other, and I think there's a Tier 5 against Tier 6 in there from memory as well. So we're guaranteed 2 sides from below the FAWNL in the third round, so they will benefit hugely financially. Right then, let's have a look then at these results. We're going to start any that don't involve FAWNL. I've got to gloss over because I don't have the information about them in terms of goal scorers. But any involving the FAWNL, we should hopefully be able to get them. So Spennymoor Town winning away at Blackpool by a 1-0. Hull City beating Halifax. I said Tier 4 beating Tier 3 by 3-1. Georgia Stevens with the goal for Halifax, but Ruby Dawson, Hope Knight and Katie Thompson with the ones for Hull City. Wigan Athletic against Chorley postponed, which means Wigan are technically the lowest ranked side remaining in the competition because they were in the draw for the second round, although their game against Chorley, all these that are postponed, are taking place this weekend. Norton Stockton Ancients 0, Chester Le Street Town 1. So good victory for Chester Le Street Town to get themselves into the second round. Goals in this one. Oh, this is going to be extremely annoying, isn't it? Full Time is not going to play ball for me today, I can tell here already. Because every time I want to click on Norton Stockton Ancients, it just puts it to back off that system, which is just not going to help. Right, this is going to be nice and slow and methodical, and so everybody can have a nice time of it, essentially. Because Women's FA Cup, it's just going to be a pain, isn't it? I can see already. There we go. Oh, and after all that, there isn't any detail on the system about Chester Street's Town victory. Okay, AFC Fylde over Durham Sestra. Durham Sestra beating Fylde, of course, bottom of the Northern Premier Division, and they lost by a 0-0. Faye Dale in the 9th minute with the only goal of the game for Durham Sestra. Stockport County beating York Railway Institute by 3-0. Goals in this one: Emily Bradshaw in the 69th minute, Jessica Gillen in the 74th and the 85th. So fair play to York Railway Institute for holding Stockport County for a long period of time in that game, almost 70 minutes. They were able to hold Stockport County for. FC United of Manchester beat York City by 2-0 away from home, but there's no information about that on the system either. Burnley beat Huddersfield Town by 2-1. Very tight game between two sides in the Northern Premier Division. Huddersfield Town's goal coming to Kate Mallin. No information about Burnley. Mancunian Unity of Tier 6 against fully professional Newcastle United, and they only lost by 9-2. A very good effort from Mancunian Unity, which included a 30-yard screamer from what I read on Twitter. Goals for Newcastle: 3rd minute to Cara Milne Redhead, one for Rebecca Ferguson in the 13th minute, then a hat-trick for Jasmine McQuaid, 23rd, 39th and 90 plus 4. Other goals for Newcastle, then there is one missing on there. Shana Wilkinson, 76th minute, Anna Salisbury in the 80th minute, Katie Barker in the 90 plus 1. No, there is 9 there. I'm obviously missing something out. Oh, Hannah Sophie Greenwood, sorry, in the 9th minute. Missed her out also with a goal there for Newcastle. Gateshead losing to 5th tier Alnwick Town by 2-1 after extra time. And West Didsbury and Chorlton losing by 6-2 at home to 4th tier Leeds United. Leeds in this one, a hat-trick for Katie Assel in the 11th, the 66th in the 75th minute. Sarah Danby in the 56th, Catherine Smith in the 69th, and there's a goal missing there somewhere. So either an own goal or a penalty, knowing full time. But an own goal as well there for Leeds. Barnsley losing by 3-0 to Liverpool Feds. Goals in this one for Liverpool then, 2-0 up at half time. Katie Anderson in the 7th minute, Ellie Fletcher in the 90th minute. There was another one, an own goal there in the 10th minute as well. So Barnsley 2 down to third tier Liverpool Feds after just 10 minutes. Leeds Modernians of tier 7 losing 4-2 to Darwin of tier 5. Camden Court of tier 3 beating Leamington Lions by 3-0. West Bromwich Albion 8. Lyde Town 2. Goals in this one to West Brom. Nope, no information about that one. Boldmere St Michael's 13. Wibberton Wildcats 0. Wibberton of tier 7 coming up against 4th tier Boldmere St Michael's. It was always going to be difficult for them. Pretty much everybody got on the score sheet for Boldmere here. We had 2 for Gabriella Mayer, 2 for Hayley Sutton and 2 for Philippa Wilson. Then 1 for Abby Bevan, Chloe Bickley, Evie Billingsley, Rhiannon Travers, Alima Abdallah, Ella Breen and Amy Taylor. So of the 14 players for Boldmere that played a part of the FA Cup game, we had 10 different scorers of the 14. And bear in mind, one is going to be a goalkeeper. There's only 3 outfield players that didn't get on the score sheet for Boldmere St Michael's. Beaumont Park losing to Leafield Athletic by 4-0. Goals in this one to Leafield. Catherine Pagan in the 28th minute, Shannon McCann-Lloyd in the 57th, Sada Lacker in the 78th, and Megan Jenkins in the 82nd minute. Lincoln City 1, Derby County 5, tier 4 against tier 3 game there. A hat-trick for Amy Sims for Derby, 16:45 and 62nd minute. Yasmin Mosby in the 46th and the 81st. Tony McHamilton getting Lincoln's goal in the 56th minute. Nottingham Forest beating 4th tier Sheffield by 7-0. A brace for Neve Reynolds in the 61st and the 90th. A brace for Louise Worsley in the 28th and the 50th, 1 for Freya Thomas in the 48th, 1 for Charlotte Greengrass in the 88th, and 1 for Alice Keatley in the 72nd minute. So comfortable really for Forest, although they were only 1-0 up at half time. League Town 1, Solihull Moors 4. Goals for Solihull here. This was the late kickoff at 3 o'clock. 2 for Anna Renkin and 2 for Channa Russell Cartwright. 1 for Katie Mayer in the 90th minute. The consolation for League Town. Sporting Cowser beating Crewe Alexandra by 3-0. Sky Owen in the 58th minute had her goal sandwiched between 2 for Larry Walker, 1 in the 40th and 1 in the 93rd. Wolverhampton Wanderers, comfortable victories over Stourbridge in this one. Wolves winning by 8-0. They took the lead in the 4th minute through Jade Cross, 13th minute Amber Hughes, 40th minute Beth Roberts, 43rd minute Sophie Bramford, and 45+1 Amber Hughes again, so 5-0 at half time. Then in the second half, a quick-fire double for Jade Cross to get her hat-trick, 49th and 51st minute, and 1 for Anna Morfitt at the end, 89th minute. Rotherham United against Worcester City, an all-tier 5 tie. Into the second page then, Sutton Coldfield Town winning by 8-0 against tier 5 Chesterfield. Now we can just pull that one up. So an 8-0 victory. A hat-trick for Chloe Handley, 37, 61, 66. 2 for Olivia Woolston, 10 and 45. 1 for Brittany Civil in the 50th. 1 for Lois Jeffries in the 67th. And 1 for Michelle McCormack in the 90th. Rugby Borough beating Doncaster Rovers Bells by 2-0. An interesting one because of the way the regionalisation in the Women's FA Cup is done at this stage, is that obviously Rugby Borough in the Southern Premier Division, but playing teams in the northern half of the divisions in the FA Cup. 1 for Angelina Nixon in the 12th minute and 1 for Sarah Hassanin in the 97th minute. Rugby also had Demi Walker sent off with 11 minutes to go, but they were able to hold on and beat Doncaster Rovers. Stoke City 6-0 winners over Dunton and Broughton United. Fairly comfortable for the Tier 3 side, who had 5 different scorers. Ellie Leake in the 10th and the 71st, Heidi Logan in the 18th, Rosie Cavell in the 30th, Molly Holder in the 48th, Danielle Puddlefoot in the 83rd. Lincoln United losing to Loughborough Lightning by 2-1. Great effort from Lincoln United there to really push Loughborough all the way as best they could. Loughborough Lightning's goals there, Kaylee Hines in the 39th minute and Abby Hateley in the 60th minute. But certainly Lincoln United of the 5th tier not disgracing themselves there. Dussindale and Hellerston 3, Needham Market 4. It was a non-FAWNL game. And then really for me the big one of the... one of the big ones, should I say, of the first round. Norwich City with a goal for Ellie Smith beating #United by 1-0. #United, of course, flying towards the top of the Southern Premier Division, and they ended up losing to Norwich City of Division 1 South East, a tier below them. Not a result was expecting at all. Fair play to Norwich for getting the win and getting into that second round. Luton Town beating Harpenden Town by 3-0. Peterborough United needing extra time to get past Wroxham as well. Great effort for the Norfolk side. Half time it was 0-0, and then it was 0-0 at the end of full time as well. 3rd minute of extra time, Keir Perkins, and the 9th minute of extra time for Frankie Pym to give Peterborough the victory, but very, very close for Wroxham. Thetford Town 2, Enfield Town 4, Real Bedford 0, Billericay Town 5. No information about that one. Northampton Town 0, Ipswich Town 6. Comfortable for the Southern Premier Division side, really. 2 for Lucy O'Brien, 2 for Natasha Thomas, 1 for Sophie Peskett, and 1 for Bonnie Elizabeth Horwood. Hertford Town 1, Haringey Borough 3. Cambridge United 1, MK Dons 2. Another great example, really, of the gap between the 3rd tier and the 4th tier not necessarily being as big as some people might expect. Nicola Puddick and Lucy Wood with the goals for MK Dons. Alicia Stocktoe Down with the one for Cambridge United. Dartford 3, Abingdon United 1. Another upset non-FAWNL side beating the WNL side by 3-1. No information about that one. And Maidenhead United needed extra time to get past Sutton United as well. 4-3 in the end after an extra time, as I said. It was 2-2 at the end of normal time. Simone O'Brien in the 54th minute and Natalie Cowell in the 58th minute had got Maidenhead's goals. Then Imogen Fisher just after half time of extra time, and Macy Nakia Walters eventually gave Maidenhead the victory. The super sub who came on in the 110th minute and scored in the 111th. Woodley United 0, Oxford United 4, so comfortable for Oxford as well. 2 for Zoe Barrett, 29th and 62nd minute, 1 for Jenna Legg in the 41st, and 1 for Sarah King in the 65th. Saltdean United against AFC Wimbledon. Other than the sides that actually beat sides above them, this is probably the best effort of the afternoon. They needed penalties, did Wimbledon. Not only did they need penalties, they won by 8-7 on penalties. So close for Saltdean United of the 5th tier. Sandra Martins with the only goal for Wimbledon in normal time in the 49th minute, and then they needed penalties and they won by 8-7. Bromley of the 6th tier beat AFC Porchester, also of the 6th tier, by 3-2. Bromley are the lowest ranked side guaranteed into the second round after that victory, because Wigan, of course, still have to get past Chorley in their rearranged fixture. Moneyfield 6, Ashford Town 3. This was an all FAWNL tie. Moneyfield's getting the better of this one, as I said, by 6-3. goals in this one. Charlie Wilson-Wilton in the 30th and the 65th minute. Gemma Simmons in the 48th. Sophie Phelps in the 50th. Kalunay Taylor in the 67th. And Kimberly Fuller in the 77th minute, with the goals for Moneyfields. Goals for Ashford Town are not yet announced, so no information about that. Denham United losing by 3-2 to Millwall Lionesses, and Chesham United losing to Ebbsfleet United by 3-2. No information about that one yet. Southampton Women's against Brentford postponed because of the pitch at Test Park, and Haywards Heath Town against Chatham Town 4-2. The victory for Chatham there away from home. Breon Grant with 2, Florence Jackson and Nicole Pepper with 1 each as well for Chatham. Final page, and it's not as long, of the FA Cup. Dulwich Hamlet of Tier 5 beating 3rd tier London Bees by 2-0. As I said, London Bees had that head coaching departure earlier on today, and this result against a side 2 tiers below them certainly did not help with that. Fulham losing by 9-1 to Portsmouth. Hat-trick here for Bethany Lumsden, 55, 58 and 65, 10-minute hat-trick for her. Sophie Quirk had put Portsmouth ahead in the 10th minute. Emma Jones in the 25th. Then she got her second in the 45th. Sophie Quirk then in the 56th as well. Ava Robotham in the 61st and Ella Humphrey in the 78th. And that is all the goals for Portsmouth. AFC Stoneham beat Sticker by 4-0, and AFC Bournemouth beat Bridgewater United by 5-0. 5 different scorers for Bournemouth: Maisie Smith in the 23rd, Helen Blezard in the 35th, Lucy Cooper in the 53rd, Katie James in the 80th, and Gemma Hillier in the 92nd minute. Bristol Rovers of Tier 5 beating Portishead Town of Tier 4. Tamsin Hayward with the only goal for Portishead. Swindon Town beating Sherborne Town by 6-0. Goals in this one for Swindon have not been put on full time. Marine Academy Plymouth against Keynsham Town postponed. Cheltenham Town beating Cardiff by 3-0 away from home. So that's the end of the FA Cup for the Welsh side. Natasha Harding in the 4th minute, and 2 for Una Liu in the 30th and the 63rd minute for Cheltenham Town, giving them a 3-0 victory. And finally, Helston Athletic 0, Exeter City 6. Phoebe Baker in the 13th minute, Ishbel Zermond in the 16th minute, and then we go to Natasha Natman in the 32nd, Beth Ireland in the 45th, Manfi Sharp in the 48th, Sarah Stacey in the 66th, Ireland again in the 72nd, and Jenna Markham in the 77th. And just to round off the FA Cup first round results, Plymouth Argyle against Ilminster Town was postponed and will be played this weekend. Right then, let's have a look at the fixtures coming up this weekend, and indeed this week as well. We're going to start in the Northern Premier Division. Just the one game this weekend. Should be worth noting, it is now County Cup week this week as well, so a lot of teams are playing teams from far below them where they're going to win like 20-0. There's not many league games. The one in the Northern Premier Division at the City Ground, Nottingham Forest against Newcastle United, 4th against 2nd, a 4-point gap separating them at the moment. They've played the same number of games. This is their game in hand over Wolves and one of their games in hand over Burnley. So, great opportunity for both sides here. Forest, of course, lost to Newcastle in the Cup a few weeks ago. That was away from home. This one at home. You really feel that Forest need to win this game, because if they fall 7 points behind Newcastle, then I'm struggling to see how they're going to make that up. If Forest were to win this, then they go 1 point behind Newcastle and only 5 points behind Burnley, but still with a game in hand over Burnley. So that really tightens up the top of the Northern Premier Division. For me, Newcastle can afford to drop this game. Forest can't. But it'll be interesting on Sunday to see what happens there. Moving through into the Southern Premier Division, 3 games going on here. Cheltenham against Chatham Town. That is 7th against 11th. Chatham Town. This game will mark the halfway point of their season. They will have played 11 after this, and they've only got 4 points. They are 2 points away from safety at the moment, and the teams directly above them in Cardiff have 2 games in hand. Plymouth have 1 and Billericay Town have 1. So a loss against Cheltenham could potentially leave Chatham with a long way to go, because they will have then played 3 more than Cardiff and 2 more than Billericay. Still just 1 more than Plymouth, because Plymouth have got London Bees. That's the next fixture in the Southern Premier Division. Now, the problem with this one from a Chatham Town point of view, Plymouth are 5 clear of them at the moment, coming up at home against the London Bees side, who have just changed head coach. They've just been knocked out of the FA Cup by a team 2 divisions below them, and they're yet to win in the league this season. They're bottom of the league. They're already 5 away from safety. You think Plymouth would probably be the side that will win this game, and then that puts even more distance potentially between themselves and Chatham Town. In a more interesting, well, I say more interesting fixture, in a fixture towards the right end of the table, Portsmouth in first against MK Dons in 5th. This is the halfway point for MK Dons as well. But Portsmouth, with #United not playing, have the chance here to go 3 points clear. Yes, they will have played a game more, but 3 points clear, get some good goals under their belt as well, further increase that goal difference, which is already at 26. You do feel as though # have got to make big inroads in the goal difference tally if they're going to win on goal difference. And Portsmouth, it's level at the moment, but that huge difference of 26 does feel like an extra point for Portsmouth. They are effectively 1 clear because of that huge difference. Division 1 Midlands now. 1 game happening tonight. That's Thursday as you are watching this or listening to this, of course. Solihull Moors against Leafield Athletic, which is 4th against 12th. Leafield Athletic bottom of the table as it stands at the moment, coming up against 4th tier Solihull Moors. Then at the weekend, Lincoln City, who are in 8th, also face Leafield Athletic. So tough week, that's the word I was looking for Leafield Athletic, bottom of the table and 2 games away from home. Then the other game that's happening on Sunday, Loughborough Lightning top of the table against Sutton Coldfield Town in 7th. The Lightning, this is their game in hand over Peterborough at the top. They can go 4 points clear with a victory. Sutton Coldfield Town, if they were to win and win big, they could get themselves up to 4th. A win of any sort would put them into 5th place. Division 1 North, just the 1 game, Durham Sestra against Hull City. Durham come into this one in 6th and Hull City in 3rd. Hull, this is their game in hand over Barnsley. They will want to trim that gap down to 3 points. For Durham, they are kind of a bit in no man's land, really. 9 points away from any sort of danger at the bottom, but 11 points away from the top, and they don't have games in hand over Barnsley. So they're kind of a bit in no man's land in the middle. They'll be looking with a win, though, and their goal difference. A win would mean they climb up to 3rd. They would still be a distance away from Barnsley. They would be 6 points back. Sorry, it's a 9-point gap, isn't it? Yeah, they'll be 6 points back from Barnsley, but they will have played a game more. But psychologically, they will find themselves in 3rd in the table. Now we get to the interesting section of the show, where we talk about South East and South West. Now, I don't believe that game at the top between Cambridge City and Haywards Heath Town should be happening, because Haywards Heath have still got to play Maidenhead in the FAWNL plate, and that takes priority. Yet none of the sides, as I'm recording this, have put anything out about the game this weekend. Not Maidenhead, not Haywards, not Portishead, who was supposed to be playing Maidenhead, not Cambridge City, who should be playing Haywards. And we've now passed the 5 clear days window for games to be put in. So it seems as though these league fixtures will take place this weekend, even though according technically by the rule book they shouldn't. And if both teams have already agreed a different date, which they are allowed to do, and bear in mind that the quarterfinals are not until the end of January, they do have weeks to get this game played. You would have thought if they'd have agreed a time, then that would have been published as well. But we've heard nothing from absolutely anybody. So this is as it is on full time right now. These league fixtures are taking place. I don't believe it should be, but if it does, it does. Cambridge City against Haywards Heath Town. Really important game at the bottom of South East. It was 12th hosting 11th. Cambridge City yet to win this season. Haywards Heath just with 1 to their name, and a victory for Haywards Heath would climb them out of the relegation zone. Cambridge City desperate for a victory. They are 4 points away from safety. A win would put them just 1 away. Worthing against Norwich City, 4th against 2nd. Again, great opportunity for Worthing here. This is one of their 2 games in hand against Wimbledon and Cambridge United, and if they can gain 3 of the 5 points that they're currently behind Norwich, and they will still then have a game in hand over Norwich, that's a good opportunity for them. Worthing are 9 points away from the top. They've got 2 games in hand. Now, they will still have 2 games in hand over AFC Wimbledon, who are currently top of the table, after this weekend, because Wimbledon are hosting London Seaward, who are down in 7th. They are not really in any sort of immediate danger from the bottom 2. They're 8 points clear of that. But again, they're 13 points away from the top of the table. Yes, they've got a game in hand, but they're another side that's kind of, as we approach the midway point of the season, finding that they're not in any real danger from below, but they're not really challenging for above. And it's one where, because we don't have playoffs or anything like that, you kind of run this risk of falling into going through the motions. And yes, you need to keep picking up points to stop any teams from below challenging you, but it is a very tall order for them to go up towards the top of the table, where you look at Wimbledon, who have only dropped 3 points from the first 9 games. They're probably only going to drop 10 or so over the course of the season. So very difficult situations some of these teams can find themselves in when we get to this point. Southwest, there's just 2. Again, there is that game between Portishead and Maidenhead, which seems as though it's going ahead. Portishead in 11th, Maidenhead in 8th. A victory for Portishead could bring them right behind Maidenhead. They would drop into 9th because of their goal difference. A victory for Maidenhead, they can't actually jump any further up the league table. What they can do is increase the gap to the teams that are chasing them to 6 points. And Chelsea are at home to Swindon Town. Swindon are in 3rd. You would expect this to be a relatively big victory for Swindon Town, but they are trying to catch 2 teams in Bournemouth and Exeter, who have both been perfect so far this season. What that means is that Swindon are already 10 points behind Bournemouth. And after this game, Bournemouth will have a game in hand, and Exeter will have 2. So those are all the league fixtures. We'll just finish up then with these 4 FA Cup first round fixtures that are being played this weekend because they were postponed last weekend. So Southampton women's at home to Brentford, Marine Academy Plymouth hosting Keynsham Town, Wigan Athletic at home to Chorley, and Plymouth Argyle hosting Ilminster Town. So all of the postponed games involved FAWNL sides. And it made slightly more awkward again for like Southampton, because they've got a County Cup game to play, which has now had to be postponed because FA Cup takes precedence. They can't then play the County Cup next week because the FA Cup takes precedence. Then there's one lot of league games where you guess that County Cup game is going to have to go. But those are all the fixtures coming up this week. So that will about do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. So next week we'll look ahead to the second round of the FA Cup. There are the few odd league fixtures being put in there as well for teams that have been knocked out, and we'll look back at those league fixtures from this weekend and tonight's game between Solihull and Leafield. But as always, thank you very much for watching and or listening. Don't forget, you want to read more about my thoughts on the FA Cup money, it's www.womensfootballchat.wordpress.com. That's also where you can find the link to Predictor League. You're a long way back now if you're just starting, but you can still win week after week. So thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat, the show dedicated to the FAWNL. I'll be back next Thursday at 6 PM to bring you all the very latest. But for now, goodbye.